Hello and welcome to another UCL fantasy video. We are back again, this time with another team selection. We're looking ahead to Matchday 4 now. As always, before we start the video, if you enjoy it, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. We're almost at 1,000 subscribers, which we're hoping to reach by the end of the year. This week I will be using the Limitless chip, so this is a Limitless draft video, and before we get into things, we will have a look at what happened in Matchday 3 for myself. So, as you can see on the screen already, right down at the bottom, we played no chips last week, in a week where most of the games seemed to have played their wildcard chip. I did manage 65 Matchday points, which I was fairly happy with. It seemed to be about the average, including those who used a chip, so I was happy to kind of just match those that were using a chip. You can see just below me now as well, I am sitting 41k in the world. Before Matchday 3 I was sitting at 39k, so I've really just dropped 2,000 places, so basically not moved, which isn't too bad. It isn't like perfect, but we are ready to use that Limitless chip in this game week, or this match day, and try and push up those rankings. So for my own team, it was just another week of 50-50 decisions going wrong for me. If you watched the last video, you'd see the kind of players I was humming and hawing about, and one of those was basically the transfers we're making was going for Henrich and Stengs, and the alternative was going for Simmons and Rom, which ended up being a massive 19-point difference in the two that I went for. Rom ended up getting a 12-pointer and Henrich a 0, and then I think Simmons was also a 12-pointer, I want to say. It could have been 13, and Stengs ended up getting 6, so I really could have ended up having like an 80 plus point week just by using 2 free transfers, which would have been brilliant, and my rank would be a lot higher than it is right now. But it just seems to be the story of what's happening with me. All 3 match days I've had 50-50 decisions go the complete opposite direction, and I'm about 50 points down, maybe even more than that, from 50-50 picks that I've ended up going for the other players. But again, it wasn't the end of the world. We are still at a fair enough rank at this point in the season, with obviously still the Limitless chip to use. So everyone else I was quite happy with. I never really had any big downfalls. The defence, which has been my big point scorers for the last 2 weeks, did let me down a little bit, but the attackers were fine, the midfielders were fine, and everything's looking good. So we are going to go and look at some target fixtures before we get into the team selection. So the entire reason for going for the Limitless in Matchday 4 was because most of the big teams had their easy fixtures at home this week. That was originally the plan, and this probably was looking like the easiest matchday out of all 6 for the bigger teams. So we're looking at Man City with Young Boys at home, Barcelona with Shakhtar as an away game, still an easier fixture. Atletico with Celtic at home, Porto with Antwerp at home, and then looking down to the Wednesday games, we have Real with Braga at home, Bayern with Galatasaray at home, Napoli with Union Berlin at home, and then another few easier games which are also away. Looking at it now, 3-4 game weeks on, Man United was a team that we would have targeted from Matchday 1, thinking that's going to be an easy fixture against Copenhagen. Now I think we kind of have to second guess that, because Man U haven't really been performing, and they get a very, very lucky win against Copenhagen at home. So I probably would maybe try and avoid someone like Man United, but there's literally 8 teams there, or is that 10 teams? 10 teams there with green fixtures that we can look at and possibly look to triple up on. And again, these are the teams that the expensive players come from, so we can really look to utilise that unlimited budget and get the best from our teams. So moving on to the team selection, then we're going to look at the goalkeeper and defenders first. I have went for a double Barcelona defence. Not that I think that they are one of the most likely to keep a clean sheet, it's purely because they are playing on the first day, and I'm finding it very, very difficult to find players playing on the Tuesday. From my original just mess about with the Limitless. I ended up having so many more players playing on the Wednesday than I did the Tuesday, which isn't really what you want to be doing, because you want to have the option to sub out the lowest scoring possible players. So you can use your punts and stuff on Tuesdays, and if they don't work out, you obviously can sub them back out. So I have went for Ter Stegen. It was between him, Oblak and Ederson. They were my 3 picks for the first goalkeeper spot. I have opted for Ter Stegen because I would prefer to have the 3 City players outfield, which is why I've ended up fitting in Ruben Diaz here. And between Oblak and Ter Stegen, it was either the double Atletico defence or the double Barcelona defence. And while Atletico are the home team, I do think there is a chance that Celtic score after getting the 2-each draw, and it is a must win for them if they want to have any chance of progressing through the group. So I do think that Ter Stegen could be a better option. Plus, I think there is a decent chance he picks up some good saves. Merit, because I think he could be a fantastic option, especially going with, again, the double Napoli defence there as well. Union Berlin just haven't been good attacking at all this season. I think they've not scored in something like 7 of the last 9 games, and Napoli are a home team, and I do really think they could do very well against them. It could be looking at a 2-3-0 victory, and I think a clean sheet is definitely on the cards for Napoli. Molina, again, I've had since Matchday 2. I think he is just a very good option going forward, and again, even if they didn't keep that clean sheet, I think I would rely on him possibly picking up some ball recoveries and a good chance of an attack and return as well. Then I have Ruben Diaz. Again, wanted him after getting a rest at the weekend. I think he is nailed on to start against Young Boys, and I think with Man City at home being a much better team at home, there is a very good chance that they keep a clean sheet. And I do think he's more nailed on than Ederson is, which is why I didn't want to go for Ederson. There is a decent chance that Ortega was to play in goals instead, so I went for Ruben Diaz instead. And then I've went for Rom because I don't want to make that same mistake twice. He obviously picked up a big haul against Red Star in the reverse fixture, and I don't want to miss out on that. And I do think him, and just having Leipzig players in general, even though they are cheap on a Limitless, I would rather go for the cheap players and get the points rather than utilise the Limitless a bit more and go for the more expensive but not get as many points. So I think in terms of picking the best defenders, Rom is definitely up there, especially with the fixture they have. So into our midfield spots then, it's really where we have maximised the budget. I have went for Bukayo Saka, even though he hasn't done as well in recent weeks. I do think with it being a home fixture for Arsenal is going to make a big difference. Obviously we've seen in Matchday 1 how well he really could do, and then his last 2 games in the Champions League he hasn't really done much, but they have been away fixtures, so I think the home fixture is going to make a big difference to Arsenal, and I think he is someone who could do very well. It could be a lot of one of those players that a lot of people transfer out this week as well, which is interesting, even though we do have a lot of injuries going on. You notice as well with this midfield, I don't have Bellingham. It was confirmed this morning to have dislocated his shoulder after Ancelotti said he was hoping that he would play. I don't think it's going to happen. We might end up having to wait for some news for that, but if Bellingham is cleared to play, I will bring him back into this team. Probably for Doku, we will see, but Doku is more of one of those punty picks. Obviously Doku had a fantastic weekend there with 4 assists and a goal against Bournemouth, and he does play in the first day, so I thought I would punt on him. If he doesn't work, I can always sub him out, but I do think in terms of the fixture, punting on a Man City midfielder is definitely going to be worth it. We've also got Kvaratskhelia and Sané. My reason for going for Kvaratskhelia, obviously I was saying about Union Berlin, they have not won in so many games. I think they've not won they've lost like their last 11 games, I think, and they're really looking bad right now. And I think in terms of target fixtures, they probably are the worst team in the Champions League in terms of form right now, so tripling up on Napoli was definitely a priority of mine. Now, I wanted Raspadori as a striker. He has been playing up front in place of Osimhen while he's been injured, and he's got 3 goals in his last 3 games. So I do think he was definitely an option, but I did want... There was so many other strikers that I wanted, I thought I might as well try cover him with the more expensive option in Kvaratskhelia, and I do think he is very capable of picking up man of the matches, and especially with this game, and it being a Champions League fixture, he definitely could perform, and I think he could be a big differential as well, because he is very expensive for someone who's not really been doing well in the Champions League. So I think if he does well, he could be one of those players that really propels the rank forward. I've also went for Leroy Sané and Xavi Simons. Xavi Simons similar to Rom, but I really don't want to miss out on those points again if they come round. And in terms of using the Limitless, it's maybe not the best use of it. I was maybe looking at someone like Musiala or Coleman to finish off a triple Bayern. I have only went with double Bayern in this team because Alphonso Davies hasn't really been performing the way you would expect. So I would have been possibly looking at a triple Bayern attack. But my main reasoning not going for that is because of Bayern playing on the Wednesday. So I was trying to fit in as many Tuesday players as possible. So I've picked the midfield that I have. So in terms of players that are missing out, Bellingham, obviously in case, or because of his injury, and then maybe one of those other Bayern attackers as well. Other than that, I'm quite happy with the rest of the midfield. There's no one really that I feel I could be missing out on. And then, yeah, I think possibly someone like Rodri, Foden as a different option to Doku. But as I said, if Bellingham is cleared to play for the Champions League, he will probably come in for Doku. And then finally, rounding things off with our three strikers, I have went for Harry Kane and Alvarez, two fairly reasonable options, especially with the Haaland news. Obviously, if Haaland is confirmed to be starting as well tomorrow night, we will just make that straight swap. Alvarez will come out, Haaland will go in. I think there was something that came out today that said Haaland's feeling a lot better, so he probably will be fit for the weekend, but we'll have to see what happens. We've also went for Griezmann as well as the third striker. Again, something that was a still is a very, very difficult decision. We have Griezmann as a pick, Morata as a pick, Jimenez from Feyenoord's a good pick, Openda from Leipzig a very good pick, and as I was saying as well, Raspadori could be very good as well, Nketiah, who looks decent, and even Lewandowski's back against Shakhtar, so there is a lot of very, very good picks for that third striker spot, because I do think Harry Kane and Alvarez are two that are just nailed in there, and then that third one is the one that you can kind of go a bit more out there. Again, the reason I went for Griezmann is because he plays on the Tuesday. I have picked him over Morata. That is kind of a bit of a 50-50, so knowing me, Morata is probably the one that's going to score all the goals. But Griezmann is the one on penalties. He does have 5 goals in his last 5 games as well, so I do think there is some good opportunity there with him, and it is kind of just utilising the Limitless chip a bit more, with Griezmann being one of the most expensive players in the game. So looking at captaincies then, it is fairly easy to pick from. We are going to go for Julian Alvarez against Young Boys. Again, could be Haaland depending on what kind of news we get before the deadline. But I think that is just one of those fixtures that you're going to have to go with Alvarez, because he has already scored 3 goals in the Champions League this season, and he is going to be starting as the main City striker, and it is probably one of the easiest fixtures they will get all year. So Alvarez being the main striker, we know he is in fantastic form, he's going to be the captain, and if that fails, we are going to go with Harry Kane, who did just come off the back of a hat-trick away to Dortmund, which is one of the most difficult fixtures for Bayern Munich. So I think a home Galatasaray fixture is going to be no problem for him. So if Alvarez doesn't score, probably going to be more than 10 points, then it's going to be switching over to Kane. And finally, wrapping things up, I thought I'd take my team and compare it to the fixtures. You can see just below me how many players from each of the best teams I've got in this team. One of the main things you'll see is that there's no Real Madrid players, which could end up being a problem. So that could be something we end up doing, maybe moving Griezmann onto one of Vinicius Jr. or Rodrigo. Maybe with Bellingham out, it is one of those opportunities for Vinicius to shine, and we could go for him over Griezmann. That way we are still covering a Real Madrid player. Also maybe going with Kepa over Merit. I don't think I would do that, but because I'm really confident in the Napoli clean sheet. So Kepa to Merit was something I originally had, that way that was covering the Real, because I did have Bellingham and Kepa originally. Now just the way things have happened, there is no real Real Madrid players that stand out for me. If Vinicius was still a midfielder, he would definitely be in there, but with him being a striker and there being so many good striker spots, it's just a bit too hard to fit them in. We have went triple Man City and we have went triple Napoli. In terms of the other best teams, we have went double most of the other ways. We've went for Bayern, Atletico, Barca, Leipzig, all with doubles. I've left out Inter, I've left out Porto, I've left out United. Porto again with Galeno out injured. There's no real standout players apart from maybe a Van Lissen who's playing as a striker. And again, like I said with Vinicius, the striker spots are just a bit too full right now. Inter, maybe Dumfries could have been an option, but again I've went for Ruben Diaz instead. Could always go Dumfries over Rom, but I think Rom just looks a bit better attacking wise than Dumfries at the moment, so I have went for him instead. And again, they are both both away fixtures. I have to completely ignored Man United, even though it's considered a good fixture. I'm not convinced that they are going to convincingly beat Copenhagen. So other than that, it's really just the Real Madrid players that I'm really missing there. The triple Bayern was something I'm still interested in doing, so maybe last minute we will make a switch and go for one of Musiala or Coleman in midfield. But in terms of other moves, maybe Bellingham or Haaland, if they are confirmed, they will definitely come back into the team. But I'm pretty happy with the way that is. We are 7 million over budget, obviously with it being a Limitless chip, that is okay. But yeah, again, if any last minute changes are made, you will see them over on my Twitter, which is linked in the top left of the screen. So if you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like, and as I said at the start, please subscribe if you are new, because we are trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. But if you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like, and I will see you all in the next video.